This is a time timer, a simple device that helps me avoid procrastination, makes me more productive, and also helps me to stay focused for longer periods of time. But what is this device? How do I use it? And how can it help you to become more productive as well? Well, in this video, we're gonna cover all of these questions, but first we'll have to crush the two biggest enemies that cause you to procrastinate: wasting time on your phone and wasting time on your PC. Because if we don't defeat those two enemies first, this and any other productivity device will actually be pretty useless. Alright, so starting with the phone, for years I really tried everything to minimize the time I spent on it. And I think there's only 3 different possibilities you have that actually worked, at least for me. First, you can downgrade your phone to a dumb phone, which basically means to turn your phone from this to something like this by downloading an app called O-Launcher for Android, which is called the Blank Spaces on Apple. And this application makes your phone so much less appealing that you already will spend way less time on it. But even better is that you also combine with step number 3 and find a way to restrict or block or even delete certain apps that distract you. The second option, and my personal favorite, is to go ahead and buy a second phone, which really helped me so much reduce my screen time, which however takes a bit longer to explain, and as this video is about this device and not so much about your screen time, if that sounds interesting, then you can check it out in another video of mine. However, even simpler, and the third way that you can reduce your screen time, is to download an app that allows you to block or time restrict all the apps or websites that distract you. And all you need to do now is to lock it with a password that only your brother, your girlfriend, or someone close to you knows, so you cannot bypass this restriction. Which means you now defeated the first enemy that causes you to procrastinate and are able to also go ahead and defeat the next one: wasting time on your PC. Alright, so coming to the PC, there are many different apps that could help you, but my favorite one is an app called Cold Turkey. And this app allows you to do 3 different things. First, you can set up time limits and time restrictions just like you did on the phone. For instance, if you click on my morning routine, you can see that from 5 AM to 1 PM, I'm unable to access Instagram, Gmail, and a whole bunch of other websites. The second option you have is a so-called monk mode, where you are a lot more restrictive and a lot more strict to yourself, but for a fixed period of time. So for instance, once I came home from a trip to Central America, I was really unproductive. So I set up a restriction that for 5 days I was unable to open my browser. And like this, again, I was able to get back on track and was a lot more productive after the 5 days of monk mode pass. Finally, you can also turn on the so-called frozen turkey, where I set it up in a way that after 10 PM, my PC just shuts down and I cannot access it at all until the next morning. Which really helped me to waste a lot less time in the evening on my PC, where I actually should just head to bed or read a book. Which means you now defeated both enemies that cause you to procrastinate, can now use the time timer to become even more productive. So what is this timer and what exactly makes it so special? Well, I was first introduced to the time timer when a good friend Reizu mentioned this in his video.
But the thing is, what timer you use can actually affect your focus. So this company came along and originally they designed this new timer for kids to be able to visualize how much time they have left without it becoming distracting. And it ended up working so well that they actually conducted clinical studies on this specific timer and found that it increased levels of self-regulation.
And this sounded perfect for me because even though I barely wasted any time on my phone and on my PC, I still procrastinated a lot. Not with technological distractions, but by suddenly having an urge to go for a walk, or to clean my room, or to cook some lunch. Which makes sense, because why else was procrastination already such a big problem 100 years ago, with people inventing insane looking devices to help them overcome distractions? Because we humans are master procrastinators, and we will always find something to distract us. Unless we find something to keep us accountable, like a deadline, or like a drill sergeant that screams in the face of the soldiers to do an insane amount of push-ups. And I had an idea to treat this device exactly the same. Because after purchasing the device, I committed myself to one single rule. Namely that whenever I set the timer, I was forbidden to distract myself or to procrastinate. Ever. And it really helped. I took this crazy strict. The problem though, that after a few days, I simply rarely or never set the timer anymore. And that's when I had an idea of a second rule that was the final puzzle piece that finally solved my procrastination. So the night before or the beginning of a day where I really want to get a lot of stuff done, I set myself a goal for how many 25-minute work blocks I want to get done. So when the goal, for instance, is 10 work blocks, I set a timer, no distraction, no procrastination, like really strict. And I'm done with the day once I checked off all of my 10 work blocks. And this really helped me to completely avoid procrastination on these days. It helped me to become more productive and more focused. But it also was really good for my mental health, because instead of being disappointed that I didn't check off a completely unrealistic to-do list, now I measured myself based on my efforts, which made it even less likely that I procrastinated on the next day. Unfortunately though, even though this can surely help you to avoid procrastination, it doesn't really ensure that you enjoy the time that you are working and grinding. So check out this video next, where I talk about 4 guidelines I follow to make the work more satisfying, more easy, and more enjoyable, which can help you to A, become even more productive, and B, to actually enjoy it.